Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remus.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson with you. Soon to be joined by Connor Hrabchak, who is out in Vancouver ahead of the resumption of the NHL season tomorrow night. The Jets taking on the last place Vancouver Canucks to begin their stretch, first to the trade deadline and then to the end of the regular season. The team did practice today before heading out. Interesting to note, Kyle Connor was at practice today. We'll hear more about what Kyle Connor had to say coming off of his Olympic experience and the gold medal, and get you up to date on who was there, who wasn't, and how things are shaping up heading into tomorrow night's game. Murat will join me on the program. Lots to talk about coming out of the Olympic gold medal game and the resumption of the season. So we'll look forward to having a great conversation with Murat in less than an hour from now. And before then, you know, we sort of broke late last week on either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember that the UFC was bringing the event scheduled for Ottawa to Winnipeg on April, I believe the 1st of April. So we had to lean on our guy, Aaron Bronsteter, who covers the UFC for Sportsnet. Always love having Aaron on the program. We'll talk to him coming up at the bottom of the hour just on how this all came to be and how things are shaping up for the card. Interesting to note that proper Mike Murat, brother of former Moose and Jet Jeff Murat, is in the main event of this event. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Check in on maybe get into a little bit of boxing talk too. I cannot believe that Mayweather and Pacquiao are going to fight again at the Sphere coming up. I know I say this and I'll end up watching it, but I'll hate myself for it, I'm sure. Patty G coming on as well from CoolBet later on in the program after Murat joins us. So it should be a good one. Now, listen, do want to thank all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at CoolBet and the Winnipeg Jets. Don't forget the East leading Tampa Bay Lightning coming to town in a couple weeks. That is our next Winnipeg Sports Talk game of the month. We've got 2 more remaining. We've had such a good time with all of our listeners and viewers that have come out and joined us at games this year. If you'd like to join us for the game against Tampa, jump over to winnipegjets.com/WST and grab your tickets for that. Also want to thank the great people at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Manitoba Battery and Aikens Lake, of course, St. Vital Dental Center, Rowley's Transfer, the St. B Million Choices.ca, the Million Choices Lottery, the gang of Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, the HSC Foundation, and of course, we'll also get to a why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get things going, and joining me from the West Coast right now is Connor Hrabchak himself. What's going on, kid? How are you?
Good morning, Huss. It's still 11 a.m. here with the time difference, so glad to be here. I was saying on Twitter, you know, it feels a little bit different. Last year, I covered this exact same game. Love Vancouver. I would travel here at any time of the year. Last year, the Jets were pushing for first place. This year, it's like a car crash. Can't look away. 28th versus 32nd. No JMO, no Hellebuck. It's going to be an interesting kind of difference there between the game I covered last year and the game I'm covering this year. But either way, I would cover any hockey game from the road at any time. And Vancouver is one of the best cities in the world, one of the most beautiful cities in my opinion. So anytime I can come here, and if it's for a hockey game, that's a win in my eyes.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is it's, and I'll tell you what, you picked a good couple days to get out of town. It's not particularly nice outside. Little windy.
It's plus 10 and sunny here. It's beautiful. Spent the morning walking around.
It is not plus 10 or it is sunny. It is sunny. I'll tell you that. There's still a few people out on the river trail today.
There you go.
But lots of Jet stuff to get to for today. And right off the bat, I was not expecting this. Certainly it didn't sound like Scott O'Neill was expecting it either yesterday. But lo and behold, who's out there at practice today with the Winnipeg Jets is Kyle Connor. who must have somehow. Now, I have no idea whether he was with the whole gang last night at famed Miami Club 11 as they got up on stage and sang Toby Keith and did whatever they do as gold medal winners. But Kyle Connor back, and we'll talk to Murat. Obviously, you're in Vancouver and weren't able to be there today. Murat was there, and he'll join us about that a little bit later on. But, I'm not sure whether this is just the disappointment with the way that the tournament went for him personally, just wanting to get back to work ASAP. But while no one expected Hrabchak, I think, even come to Winnipeg, I believe he's going to be going straight to the West Coast and potentially joining the team in Anaheim after stealing the gold medal, as we talked about extensively yesterday. But Kyle Connor here, and I believe his quote was, just have this. I'm just getting ready. We play on Wednesday. Murat said he was all business and explaining why he joined his teammates here in Winnipeg today. It's a big second half, so I wanted to make sure I was ready.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what Murat had to say. Obviously, he was there in the scrum. You can hear the body language, the tone, all of those things that you can't see when just reading the quote online, right? But yeah, we know that Connor Hrabchak is there. We saw a photo earlier this morning of him stepping off the plane, front and center, getting ready to celebrate. And you kind of look through the bodies of who's there and who's not. You don't see Kyle Connor. I know Brock Nelson went home too with the Colorado Avalanche, and he's going to be, resuming and kind of all business, getting things ready there. So it seems like while you kind of assume every single player is going to go to this like State of the Union thing that they were invited to, it seems like it can be personal preference going home. And Kyle Connor obviously didn't play in the final 3 or 4 games there, comes home. The Jets believe that this is a big stretch run, 11 points out of the playoffs. They still want to make it, as unlikely as it might be. And he seemed to be all business coming back and is ready to go for tomorrow and skated top line, top power play, all of those things. So no reason to expect anything other than him being in the lineup tomorrow night. Yeah,
we'll get to the clean line lines coming up in a minute. I just want to say this quickly because I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit with Murat. So much of this stuff, unfortunately, and it's people kind of on the extremes of both sides that want to make everything political. And listen, I get it. I'm sure it was that rat Matthew Tkachuk that invited Kash Patel into the room to do a stone cold Steve Austin there afterwards. And most people have heard the call from the president. But I really hope people... listen, not everything is an act of a political statement. And, whether guys go to the White House to celebrate, as Olympic champions for their country, great honor to go there, regardless of what you think about the guy currently inhabiting the place. I think that they'll have their choices to do that. If they want to do it, they've certainly earned it. I have a feeling that maybe some of the guys were going to go, and then they found out they had to sit there and actually listen to the State of the Union address tonight, and then said, I'm out. There's no way. There's no way I'm doing that, as great as it would be. But I just hate when people are trying to say every act is an act of, political support or what, when it's totally not. And listen, these guys earned the right to do that. As is tradition, certainly with a lot of championship teams, and some teams have decided not to go. The Seahawks aren't going. But that group, and there were a lot of guys that were fired up to do it. I just don't think we should paint everyone as a big MAGA guy because they're going to that. And I'll just leave it at that because I know that's where the chat's going to go, or some people will. I've already seen it on Twitter, and this is, I don't think it's fair to those guys. And just in case you were wondering, I'll ask Murat about this. I'm not sure whether he was the one that asked the question or not. We all heard Trump in typical Trumpian fashion sort of take a dig, or at least that's the way it was taken by a lot of people at their incredible women's gold medal winning team on that call. And he was asked about it. And I'm just trying to look and see if I can grab that exact quote here. Yeah, here it is. The president's joke about inviting the women, quote, I don't really have any thoughts on that. There's so many things happening. We just won the gold medal and things are going on. So I don't really remember what he said. It's such a whirlwind, just celebrating. And, for all the people that said everyone was laughing, I do think some of it was a nervous laugh. Someone in the back went 2 for 2. So again, just to paint everyone with the same brush, I don't think is unfair. You can paint Matthew Tkachuk that way, though. He's had his nose so far up that keister, and I think is a big part of the ringleader of the whole thing. But as I said, that's their right. We're talking hockey, and people can have their own opinions, and it's a free world. We're just living in it. Back to the Jets, though. It is interesting that Connor's come back, and Murat, I'm sure, will have a pretty good read, maybe just on the body language from there. But as great as it was for Kyle Connor to be on that gold medal winning team, he was in the press box for it. And, Connor, and I'm not sure whether it's going to be over the second half or the last third of this season, in that, we know where the team is right now, and it's an incredibly steep climb, and not a lot of people, certainly myself at the front of that list, expects them to be able to do it. But there's a lot of, listen, it's great to be there and it's great to win that gold medal. But for Kyle Connor, this was probably as much of a trying experience, being there and then not having the opportunity to play and help your team in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. And, whether this is in the short term or the long term, I think there still will be, hope, maybe a little bit of a chip on the shoulder that, can make him maybe even a more effective player in games like they were playing at the highest level in the Olympics moving forward.
Yeah. For Kyle Connor, he had no shots on goal against Latvia and Denmark, right? It just wasn't working for him in the first couple of games there. Falls out of favor. And look, the U.S. didn't really trust whoever they put in. They switched him out with Clayton Keller, and Keller played 30 seconds in the gold medal game for the U.S. So I don't know. I just think they kind of shortened the bench as the tournament went on. Kyle Connor fell out of favor. But I agree, Huss. This is a guy that the Winnipeg Jets have committed $96 million to over the next 8 years, starting next season. And it's now back-to-back years at a new coaching staff and a new system and all of these things. He completely falls out of favor in a matter of games. So it's something that is probably disappointing for him, as awesome as it is to have that gold medal around his neck and have that, propped up in his house, and he'll have that forever. He just wasn't a part of it, really. And he played the first 2 games, but like I said, no shots on goal, had his minutes severely limited in the second game, and then just didn't really get back in as the U.S. continued to roll. So for a guy like Kyle Connor, probably a lot of mixed feelings on that front, where, they win, they're celebrating, they're having a good time, whatever. And then he didn't really contribute to it. So it's kind of a weird feeling for him, but I don't know. Like I said earlier, this team believes that there's still a chance to make a playoffs, even if you look at all of the money pucks and all of the percentages and it's all below 5% or below 10%. They're still going to try and make that push, and we'll see how Kyle Connor responds to it. But it's something that is definitely noteworthy, that twice in a year's span, he's gone and gotten picked for Team USA and ended up on the outside looking in by the end of the tournament.
Yeah, and with the exception of Hellebuck, who obviously had the game of his life and, has become, iconic in U.S. hockey circles. He already was in Winnipeg hockey circles. I think we all don't need to kind of explain to anyone what he's meant to this team since he showed up here and then decided to re-sign long-term and play the majority, if not all, of his career as a Winnipeg Jet. The 3 other guys that were central figures in and around the Olympic Games, and I'll take Niederreiter out of this because he was a lock for the Swiss. They don't have the same depth as these other teams, and obviously had the incredible honor of carrying the flag. And I thought the Swiss really acquitted themselves quite well. So I'm sure Nino's opportunity was great. You think about the other 3 top players on the Jets: Josh Morrissey, Kyle Connor, and Mark Scheifele. Scheifele, puts up certainly numbers that were worthy of being on the team and gets overlooked, not only when they made the final roster, but when they added 2 players. Kyle Connor makes the team, starts off in the third line, spends 2 games in the lineup, and then is out the rest of the way. And then And then Josh, one period.
Yeah.
And then misses the rest of it. And I feel bad in different ways for all three of those guys. But the Morrissey one, to me, as far as the Jets go right now, Connor, moving forward, he is going to be, a huge loss. And for those that, believe that the team is sort of on side with where they're at right now and not really doing everything they can to push, he's been placed on IR. Now, I believe it is retroactive to when the injury happened in the Olympic Games. But the fact of the matter is right now is that the 23-man rosters are in effect. Like, you can't, the guys are off partying after winning the gold medal. You can't just add a guy. Like, there's no roster allotment for that. So, we move on. And, for Josh, like, what? I mean, we really don't know what the injury is, but I just keep on thinking if this was something serious enough to keep him out of two of the biggest games he'll have the opportunity to play of in his entire life, I certainly don't expect him on this road trip. And, from a big picture perspective, I don't know how much of a hurry they're going to be putting him into the lineup because, like, listen, if you're thinking about improving your draft position, outside of Hellebuck, I'm not sure there's a guy that impacts your chances of winning more than having 44 on the Jet blue line.
100% on that last point. Like, and for Josh, it's brutal because you see the injury or what we thought was the injury. And I assumed this whole time that it was lower body because the clip that was kind of circulating was him banging knees with Marty Necas in the first period of that Czechia game and then kind of looking not right. But now it's being reported that it's an upper body injury. So again, we don't really know what it is. Upper body is still very vague. But if the Canada had won in overtime against the U.S., it would have been deja vu from the Four Nations. Josh isn't there. He got sick in the Four Nations, but got hurt this time. Kyle Connor falls out of favor. And then this time, Connor Hellebuck wins the gold and is a huge reason why the U.S. won it. But if Canada had won, I mean, it would have been the exact same thing. Connor Hellebuck comes up one goal short. Kyle Connor falls out of favor, and Josh Morrissey's not there for the biggest moment. And yeah, it absolutely sucks for Josh. We heard from him last year after the season on kind of the end of season media locker cleanout days. And he expressed his frustration with the fact that he takes a headshot in game 7 against the Blues and can affect that game. He gets tangled up with Mikko Rantanen and his knee. He suffers a knee injury in game 6 against Dallas and he can't affect that game. He gets sick in the Four Nations and he can't affect that game. And now something that wasn't very obvious, something that he tried to play through, like knocked him out for the entire Olympics, and he couldn't affect the Olympics as well. And we talked throughout the entire thing. Canada clearly missed Josh Morrissey's puck moving and offensive ability from the blue line, that dynamic threat from the back end. They were clearly missing. So absolutely gutted for Josh. And you make a great point that there's no rush to bring him back. They're not going to bring him back until he's 110%. Screw 100%. If he's at 80 right now, if he's at 90, once he gets to 100, give him another week. Like there's no point to try and rush him back to salvage whatever minuscule chance you have of making the playoffs. Make sure Josh Morrissey's ready to go. And then when he does come back, hey, give him some run with Elias Salomonsson. Give him some run with some new partners. Try some new things. I think that's something the Winnipeg Jets could look to do down the stretch here. But Josh Morrissey's not coming back until he's 110% or better for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. This is the way things looked for our the clean lines for today. Obviously Eric Comrie is getting the start, but other than that, pretty much everybody back. Of course, the line's always brought to you by Clean Line, Winnipeg and Manitoba's one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience for plumbing, heating, and electrical services with 24/7 emergency services at 204-500-2001. The big line is back. Connor Scheifele-Velarde right out of the gate. Lowry in between Perfetti and Iafallo. Jonathan Taves in between Nino Niederreiter and Vlad Nemetsnikov. Morgan Barron with Koepke and Nyquist. Tanner Pearson and the recalled Walker Dewar from the Manitoba Moose, the forward group. And how about this to get people going? Logan Stanley alongside Dylan DeMello would that be the top pairing? Is he now a number one defenseman? Can that maybe play into the narrative around the trade deadline? Top pairing offensive PP1 D-man, Logan Stanley with Dylan DeMello. Looks like that's where it is. Dylan Sandberg with Elias Salmonson. And look who's back. Ville Heinola, who was recalled over the course of the Olympic break, skating with Luke Shen today. And then Clague, Fleury, and Colin Miller. Of course, both Miller and Fleury coming back from injury, and Clague, another recall from the Manitoba Moose while players were away in Italy.
Yeah, it's definitely not the story of the Jets lineup, but I'm pumped for Ville to get back in. Like the article before the Olympic break about, there's been a few articles over the years, but this one with the Finnish reporter where he expressed more frustration that he hasn't gotten an opportunity. I'm excited for him to just get into the lineup starting tomorrow night. Hopefully they actually do put him in. But yeah, it looks like he'll skate with Luke Shen on that third pair. And then Stanley DeMello, I know all the reporters in Winnipeg are listing that as the top pair, but I'd be willing to wager that Sandberg Salamonson plays more than Stanley DeMello does. But still, it's going to be interesting to see because Logan Stanley, like we said going into the break, coming out of the break was going to be a sprint, 12 days and 5 games. We're now 11 days and 5 games away from the Winnipeg Jets and what they're going to do at the March 6th trade deadline. And if Logan Stanley, for these next 2 weeks when Josh Morrissey's out, or however long Josh Morrissey's out for, is going to be playing 18 plus minutes a night and on the top power play, this might just be a value boosting move to get his points up a little bit and then ship him at the deadline, right? Like I know Ken Wiebe had the report that Logan Stanley wants to stay in Winnipeg, and Stanley was, thinking or hoping that contract extension talks would take place over the next couple of days. TikTok, man, like there's 11 days till the deadline and 5 games. And once the games start, it might get a little bit tougher for that too. So if Logan Stanley is going to get moved at the March 6th trade deadline, yeah, play him 22 minutes a night. Yeah, get his points up. Yeah, play him on the top power play. Get him some secondary assists. Why not pump up his value? And then
when you're trying to run him out of town? Are you trying to run him out of town on WST today? Is that what's happening right now live on the show?
That is not what is happening. I'm saying if he's going to get moved, these next 5 games where, you're playing the Vancouver Canucks to start the road trip, give him 20 minutes. Maybe he'll score another goal and have another assist and pump up his value, and you'll get a first instead of a second at the deadline, Huss. I don't know.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean,
not running him out of town.
I'm joking, of course, about that. But hey, listen, you know what? He's got a knack for timing, that's for sure. And we've said it all year long. I mean, he's certainly having a career year. He's now with some injuries and some guys away, getting some opportunities that have never been afforded him in the past. And, it's in the Jets' best interest if he makes the most of it right now. Albeit people can decide whether they're wanting the team to win games, which is such a weird place to be. But this is basically where we've been since New Year's Day and that 11-game losing streak, to be perfectly honest. One other thing, and we'll dive into this with Murat, who is a very busy guy getting back on the beat today. He had a pretty long one-on-one with Jonathan Taves. And I don't know whether I'm surprised about this or not. I guess I don't really have a take on this. I was very intrigued to find out where his head was at. But Connor today in the Athletic, him reporting that there is no interest from Jonathan Taves to be traded. He has a full no move. That was something that he negotiated. He wants to be here. And reading between the lines, this isn't about just finishing up this season. I think he feels like he loves it here in Winnipeg with the organization and wants to be part of this team moving forward, which presumably would mean an extension for another season at least that hasn't come yet.
Yeah, exactly, Huss. And yeah, I mean, this is something that we've debated on this show before. And I know Liz and I have talked pretty extensively about it on WST Sunday Live, where when previewing the upcoming trade deadline and looking at all of the pending UFAs, where does Jonathan Taves fit into that? Because when he came back to the National Hockey League and signed with the Winnipeg Jets, I think it was more about and this take turned out to be true, not to pat myself in the back, but I thought it was more about the homecoming than it was contending. And obviously the Jets were first last year, won the President's Trophy. So Jonathan Taves was thinking that he could have his cake and eat it too, where he could go home and contend. Clearly that hasn't been the case. They're 28th in the National Hockey League, but I still think it's more about playing for Winnipeg. There was so much emphasis on playing for his hometown, playing in front of friends and family. when he made the decision to sign with the Jets, that I thought that would play a factor and was one of the biggest reasons for the full no move. And great reporting by Murat, great work by him to go straight to the source and ask. That's all you can do in this industry. And Jonathan Taves saying, yeah, I mean, this is not something that he's looking to explore. If he was going to, he would be one of, if not the Winnipeg Jets' most valuable trade chip at the deadline. His low cap hit, his face-off ability, the Stanley Cup experience. These are all things that GMs drool over. We know that. And I mean, if he's going to stay, which it looks like he is, I mean, it's more about the hometown kid, going to play the full season with the Winnipeg Jets. I know people will have mixed opinions on that, but that's why he gets a full no move. He gets to make this decision, and making it to stay in Winnipeg as a hockey legend and one of the greatest hockey products the city has ever produced, if not the greatest. You can't really fault him for that decision, staying home.
Yeah. So, listen, I mean, I always thought that the best case scenario would be one of, hey, if there's someone that wants me that, that was a fit, I mean, I'd love to come back here in the off season. Because I mean, at times
Right.
Taves has been really good. It's been inconsistent. And obviously there's been some real challenges this year. And I think the big picture right now for the Winnipeg Jets is what can they do to put themselves in the most advantageous possible heading into the draft in Buffalo at the end of June and into next season. And hard to argue that getting something for Taves at this point of this season wouldn't have been the best. But again, I mean, the organization and he listen, he earned the opportunity to make that decision on his own. And I, at least, others may not, but I will respect that. And, we'll see what happens moving forward.
And
but
Huss, I'll say this too, like it was really interesting how Jonathan Taves came out of the holiday break looking like a new player. So now with 3 weeks off with the Olympic break, I mean, are these next 5 games, is he going to go on an absolute tear? And then this is going to become another conversation, even though we have a quote straight from the source saying he doesn't want to leave Winnipeg, right? And I don't know. I would not be shocked if Jonathan Taves looks great for the next 5 to 10 games because of the 3-week break and he looks revitalized. It was a 4 or 5 day break at the holidays. And the first 10-game block out of that, he looked great. So 3 weeks off, you'd think this next 5 to 10-game block, he's going to look more like the guy that we saw for that nice little 15-game stretch coming out of the holiday break. And yeah, it looks like he's going to stay in Winnipeg, and he's a Winnipeg legend, man.
Yeah, the conversation for another day is, if he comes back, never mind what that cap number is and all that, which is obviously always a part of any conversation when you're talking about the salary cap world of the NHL. But next year, what is the role? What can he be counted on to do? Because I mean, listen, I think they realized that they were hoping for the best case scenario with him being the 2C, and that never materialized and still really isn't the case.
Right.
So that is where we're at. Hey, listen, just quickly before we go, we're 48 hours or so past. How where's your head at after the disappointment of Sunday? How are you doing?
Getting more disappointed by the hour and the day, Huss, because of the fallout of all of this. It's ridiculous. And I mean, look, we did our Sunday live, we did our show, and the most infuriating part, or one of the most infuriating parts, not the most, is the amount of things I said on the show to then there's a comment from someone who's never on our channel. It's clearly like a USA hockey fan that comes in and argues against something that I didn't even argue. So Huss, for like the best example is on the show, I said 3-on-3 is no excuse for Canada losing. I'd have McDavid, McCarr, and McKinnon, and I felt great going into OT because those are the three of the best players in the world. They were on the ice for the OT winner against, and I'm like, I bet you Czechia and Sweden probably don't feel great about that either. There's a comment on the show that's like, oh, Canadians complaining about 3-on-3. Don't the other teams feel the same way when they lost in 3-on-2? I'm like, I said that. I literally said that. Yeah. Like, people just come in to argue. And like, I said it like 6 minutes into a 90-minute show. So it's like, they don't even listen, they don't even listen. They just argue a point that I made. It's so infuriating. I stopped reading the comments. Shout out to all the WSTers shout out to the WSTers who joined us on Sunday and kept it civil and kind of shared in the misery. But man, yeah. And then like the past couple of days just online have been so brutal. Just the discourse and everything. And the politicization of these hockey players from the administration and all of this stuff has just been, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I'll just leave it at that.
I'll just say it. As far as the comments in the chat, it's not breaking news that there's some dummies on the internet that might get into your comments or your inbox at some point. And no, you guys did a great job on that. It was an awesome few days for us. And unfortunately, we hoped that this would be like a victory celebration all week. But now we're just looking forward to Jets Canucks tomorrow night, 9 p.m. start. Connor, we'll check in the next couple of days. Have a great time out there, and we'll look forward to catching up tomorrow and setting up the game with you.
Yes, looking forward to it, Huss. It's like, again, the car crash nature of this hockey game has me very, very fascinated. Very different from last year when the Jets were pushing for first, but Ville Heinola is in, Stanley top pair. I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. Yeah,
it'll be fun. Thanks so much, Connor. Stay on top of Connor's reporting at Sports Talk WPG, and of course at Connor Hrabchak 12 on Twitter as well, as he is out there for the next couple days, and he'll be joining us from the rink tomorrow. All right, we're going to shift gears. Murat is coming up in about 20 minutes or so. We got Aaron Bronsteter coming up right away. Gang, don't forget right now, get your tickets for the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery before Thursday, March 5th, to count yourself in for the incredible early bird prizes worth over $280,000. If you get your tickets in before Thursday, March 5th at midnight, you'll be in for one of two early bird prizes of a couple of incredible trucks worth over $115,000 or $100,000 cash tax-free. They're also giving away 25 prizes of an Apple iPhone 17 Pro or a Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus, or $1,000 cash as well. And of course, everyone that gets a ticket will be in for the incredible grand prizes, which is one of five $1.5 million dream homes or $1.25 million cash tax-free. Get over online to stbmegamillionchoices.ca to buy your tickets today, stbmegamillionchoices.ca, or you can head over to London Drugs or your local Red River Co-op location and pick up your tickets there as well. Great stuff from the gang, and hopefully, I mean, it's all going to the incredibly important research and work done at the St. Boniface Hospital. I've got to shout out our friends at Uptown Alley. A lot of us just want to get away from hockey for a bit, certainly get out of this weather. No better time to get out and have a blast at Uptown Alley. I know Schnitzy was there with his little guys, and some friends on the weekend had a great time. You got the 5-pin, the 10-pin bowling, laser tag, the state-of-the-art arcade, and amazing food and beverage options that will blow your mind. Best place for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for group or corporate outings. You just let them know what activities you want to do, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and their event staff will take care of all the rest of it for you. Find out more by calling 488-0000 or hit them up online at uptownalley.ca. Our friends at Rollies are ready to help you move coming into spring and summer. Folks, Rollies, family owned and operated for over 60 years here in Manitoba, and the most trusted name in moving in the city and province. Head up rollies.com and click on request an estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they have been famous for since now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, leave it to Rollies. And Manitobans have been doing it for so many years. The most trusted name in the game. Find out more today at rollies.com. And just before we bring in AB, got to thank St. Patel Dental Center for their support. I was talking to Dr. Terry today. Speaking of big smiles, he's going to one of the World Cup games in Vancouver. Incredibly jealous. But of course, Terry and his staff at St. Patel Dental Center have been serving generations of Winnipeggers, clients from 6 months to 99 plus, with a full array of dental services, from things like cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. They do it all. Got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with convenient free parking right behind the building. For your next dental visit, make it St. Vital Dental Center. Go online to stvitaldental.ca to make an appointment today, and make sure to tell them hi from the WST crew. All right, we've got a big news last week. And we don't talk a ton of UFC regularly, but this is a huge story in that a big event north of the border in Canada is being moved from Ottawa to Winnipeg. And to talk about it now, there's only one guy we go to for UFC news, and that, of course, is Sportsnet Aaron Bronsteter. Aaron, what is up? It's great to have you back on the show. How are you?
I'm good, Hustler. Nice to see you. I'm excited to come to Winnipeg. Maybe we'll get a couple frames in at Uptown. You're going to tell me where to go in the city. Be my host, and we can figure it all out.
Oh, my God. We are going to roll out the red carpet for you, buddy. That is going to be amazing. We'll make our agenda and itinerary once we find out a little bit more about what yours is. But fill us in on the backstory. I'll be honest. I got a DM from somebody, I think it was maybe late Thursday night, that said this was happening. And then by Friday afternoon, I think it was official. We're not talking about something that's happening in 5 or 6 months. This is in like 5 weeks or so. Fill us in on what's happened behind the scenes to have this event move from Ottawa to Winnipeg.
All right, let me preface this by saying some of this is speculative, and I'll point out what part of it is and what part of it isn't. So an Ottawa event was never officially announced. The UFC never said, we're coming to Ottawa, tickets are on sale, blah, blah, blah. There was just a lot of reports out there that they were going to Ottawa, and that was initially the plan. Now, for the first thing I had heard, and I never reported any of this because a lot of it was kind of circumstantial at the time. The first thing I had heard was, of course, they're going to do an event in Ottawa. The next thing I had heard was that they were going to do an event at the TD Center in Ottawa, which was confusing to me because that's an arena that holds like 11,000, 12,000 people. And typically the UFC's MO since the pandemic has been not to do arenas that are less than 15,000 people, just as a rule for the most part. So that was the first surprise to me. And I was thinking, that's strange. So then I went online, and this is the speculation part. If you go on and you look up what are the chances of the Ottawa Senators hosting a home game in the playoffs, it was less than 1%. Now, the reason why that's significant is they can't give the Canadian Tire Center to another party until the playoff picture is sorted out. Now, the UFC doesn't have that sort of time to wait because they've got to get tickets on sale. So I guess they probably had the TD Center as a backup, and maybe they would move to Canadian Tire. But if the tickets are going to go on sale, they want to have a venue that's in place so that they can work on their seating arrangements. It's hard to pivot from one arena to another. And I think what they probably did was inquired about Winnipeg. They hadn't been to Winnipeg in a long time. And if you go online and look up what are the chances of the Winnipeg Jets hosting a playoff game, it's 0%. And likely 0% they're going to make the playoffs. There's something's going to have to go dramatically differently for them to even get into the playoffs, which means that the arena is available because this is the first weekend of the NHL playoffs is when this event is supposed to happen or is scheduled to happen now. So my guess is that they were unhappy with the smaller arena. They wanted to move to Winnipeg. Now, again, I don't have this on official authority, but that would be my guess as to why they're now coming to Winnipeg.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because April 1st is the AEW event here. It's April 18th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which is the Saturday night start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, I will agree with you. Like the possibility of the Jets coming back and getting into the playoffs is somewhat of a pipe dream. To be in the top 2 in the division is literally mathematically impossible, I think, at this point. So the building will be available. And if something happens with a hockey club that goes on a heater and somehow makes the playoffs, they'll be on the road, likely in Colorado or in Vegas or whatever, if that is the case, which leaves this open. Any idea? You've got a pretty good connection in with the operation. How much is involved in moving an event like this at relatively such a late date? It seems like there's been a lot of things that would have to happen in a much quicker time frame than normal.
I wouldn't imagine it's that much because, again, the event was never announced. It was never promoted. There was no advertising. Okay. So none of that really happened. It's basically just as simple as saying we're doing an event in Winnipeg. They didn't really have to do anything outside of that. And then you call the fighters, you call the managers and say, hey, the event's not going to be in Ottawa. It's going to be in Winnipeg. And that's basically it. I don't think that there's much else that needed to be done. So I don't think that there was a big logistical hurdle for them to move this event because the event had never really been announced in the first place.
No, okay, that makes sense. As far as the card itself, where I mean, there are these massive cards. They're the numbered cards. They're like what sort of a card? What do we know about the card that actually is coming here right now? I imagine there'll be quite a bit of Canadian flavor, as there usually is when the UFC comes north of the border.
Yeah, so it's a fight night card, and it's being headlined by Mike Murat, Canadian guy from Burlington, Ontario, taking on Gilbert Burns in the main event. So it's actually the first Canadian to headline a UFC card since UFC 250 in 2020, which is Felicia Spencer taking on Amanda Nunes. And Spencer was the challenger in a division that basically had 5 fighters, 145-pound women's division. So it was kind of slim pickings. But Mike is basically the first Canadian to headline an event since then, and it's been a long time. And Mike is super popular in Canada. Very, very exciting fighter. In fact, his brother Jeff Malott was in the Jets system for a while. So
listen,
a little bit of familiarity there.
Jeff was such an awesome guy. One of our favorites he was on the Moose for the most part, did get a chance at one point with the Jets. And I remember the Moose were on the road somewhere was Chicago or Rockford or something like that when Mike had one of the biggest fights to that point of his career. And they had recorded the fight for the team. And then afterwards, no one looked at their phones, and they went in and right afterwards watched it. I think he had a big win. And, we had a great conversation with Jeff about that. But I saw something with Mike, and I can't remember whether it was on your station or somewhere else, just talking about this move and coming to Winnipeg. And he had said, obviously he knows the city well. His brother had a great time here for a number of years, and he'd been out here to watch him play a few times. And there's a little bit more of home. Malott in particular has fought all over the country. I mean, it seems like anytime the UFC has had an event north of the border, Malott's been a big part of it, and sort of through his career slowly been moving up the card.
Yeah, certainly. And he had been ranked recently. The rankings have been shaken up a little bit as of late, so he's no longer in the rankings, but I expect that a win over Gilbert Burns will get him close to the top 10 of the welterweight division if he's able to get that win. And typically when they do these fight nights in Canada, it's mostly to showcase the Canadian talent in the UFC. So that's what I would expect the rest of this card is going to be like. I know Jasmine Jasdavicius is on the card, and she's a ranked women's flyweight. She's taking on Karine Silva. So that fight's been announced. Mosa Croden was added to the card today against Daria Zheleznikova. So that's on the card. I wouldn't be surprised if you see the likes of like a Charles Jourdain on the card. I don't know which other Canadians right now would be added, but I expect that you're going to see a good amount of them added to the card in the next couple of days because, like you said, this card is 6-7 weeks away. So we're going to see, I think, the cards start to shake out a little bit more in the coming days.
Hey, what goes into the matchmaking of one of these cards? Like obviously, I think they're putting their biggest fighters on a couple of the key events. I mean, who's involved and how do they figure out who's going to be fighting for the fans here in the Peg?
The UFC have 2 matchmakers. They have Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard. And I think their biggest challenge for these cards is to find a main event. And now that they have that and that's out of the way and is booked, and that fight's been booked for a while from what I understand, they were just kind of waiting to sort out what date it would be on. The rest of it is just kind of plug and play. You see who's available. You probably prioritize the Canadians on the roster. And then you also see really who else is available. And you're just building a fight card. You're seeing which fighters are willing to fight another fighter in their division. And they make those calls and then they put the card together accordingly. And I think that the priority for them, like I mentioned, is just finding available Canadians can compete on that date that are still, not injured or are looking to fight at this time of year.
Any thoughts on, some of the other top? Give us a bit of a synopsis of where the Canadian talent is in UFC right now. Like anything, it kind of goes in ebbs and flows. We've seen some big cards here where the Canadians have done well. We've seen some other ones where they haven't done well. How would you assess the strength of Canadian talent right now in UFC before this Winnipeg event, at which point we'll probably see quite a few of them?
It's coming along. I mean, Jasmine Jasdavicius had a big opportunity last time out against Manon Fiorot, unfortunately lost. That would have been huge for her because she would have been in the title mix, and we haven't had a fighter from Canada in the title mix probably since the aforementioned Felicia Spencer. Jillian Robertson's fighting soon. She could work her way into the title mix, but I don't know if she's going to be competing on this event. I know she's competing soon, so if she gets a win and wants a quick turnaround, maybe she ends up on this event, but I would doubt that we see her. She's in the mix in the strawweight division. She's on a win streak right now. We've got Mike headlining the card. Ayman Zahabi, I'm not sure what his health situation is like right now. I think that if he were healthy, he probably would have ended up headlining this card. He's one of the higher ranked fighters in the UFC right now in terms of Canadians. We have some great fighters like Cody Kovanchuk coming off of Contender Series last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on this card. We've got Siri Sadi, who looked great in his last fight. Marc-Andre Barrio just had a really tough fight and lost a decision against Mikhailo Oleksiejczuk. I wouldn't be shocked if he's on this card, but that was a pretty tough fight for him, so I don't know if he wants to turn it around that quickly. And you've got Louis Jourdain, who's Charles Jourdain's younger brother, the first Canadian siblings on the UFC roster together. I'm not sure if Louis is available for this card just yet, but I think we'll start to hear some more names again in the coming days.
Aaron Bronsteter is with us from Sportsnet talking about UFC Winnipeg. Tickets, I believe, are going on sale on the 6th of March. I know we'll do more. We'll try and get Mike on the program beforehand. I'm selfishly sort of hoping the Kings miss the playoffs as well, because it would be great to get Jeff back on the show. And I know those guys are so close that he will be here if he's able to. But because of the NHL schedule, if the Kings are in the playoffs, pretty good chance that he might be doing the same thing he did as a member of the Moose. And that's watching the fight when he can afterwards. Where's UFC at right now? I mean, they had that huge boost during COVID because they went ahead. They were able to put sports on when most sports weren't happening. How would you assess the where things are right now and the star power of UFC with guys like, McGregor and Khabib that were sort of the household names of some of the biggest fights ever, not really in the mix right now?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. They're doing a card at the White House in June, and that's going to be their big marquee event of the year. I don't think that they'd be talking about it if it wasn't. So if that's happening, I expect that to be kind of their marquee event of the year. They've got a big pay-per-view next week. It's UFC 326. You got Max Holloway against Charles Oliveira in what I think is going to be an absolute barn burner. Two of the most exciting fighters in the last decade going against each other for this token BMF championship that they've put together for like the most exciting fighters in the sport. So I've got that one marked on my calendar. That actually is a rematch. The original fight happened in Saskatoon like 9 or 10 years ago. And before I was covering the sport, those two fighters were two of my absolute favorite fighters to watch in the sport. And this was before they hit their primes. I just loved watching them. And I was so disappointed about that main event because Charles Oliveira had like an esophagus injury and the fight ended in the first round. So this is them really, after becoming champions, getting a chance to face one another again. And I'm so excited for that one. That one's next weekend, first weekend in March. And then right now they're starting to unroll a little bit more of the Q2 events. So they've got this one in Winnipeg on the books. They've got their Miami event in May that in April that they announced recently. And they typically go to Miami every year. It's one of my favorite events to cover each year is going to Miami. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what else they're going to be rolling out. And it's kind of a transition period for them. Like you mentioned, a lot of stars are starting to be on the rise. Islam Makhachev is an incredible fighter. He's the number one pound for pound fighter in the sport, the protege of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and is the welterweight champion. So right now, I think a lot of people are waiting to see how the championship pictures are going to turn out because we don't have that many. I think there's only one championship fight on the books right now. So there's a lot to start coming down the pipes in terms of bookings over the next couple months.
Who are the biggest stars right now? And are they champions or are they guys that are just big mouth guys? Like, I mean, we saw Strickland on the weekend. I mean, he's a guy that you kind of love to hate, considering what comes out of his mouth. I mean, Sugar Sean O'Malley is really flashy and has fought and won championships before. I mean, who are the biggest stars right now in the promotion?
I think the aforementioned O'Malley, big star. Alex Pereira, the light heavyweight champion, I think is a massive star in the sport right now. Islam, I believe, is a big star. Khamzat Chimaev, the middleweight champion, is a pretty big star right now. He's a guy that everybody, had basically earmarked as being a future champion one day, and he's fulfilled that destiny. So right now, I think that a lot of the champions are some of the bigger names in the sport, which is nice to see. And I don't know if Conor McGregor's coming back. He's been teasing it for years. John Jones wants to fight on the White House card. We don't know if that's going to happen. Amanda Nunes is back. She's out of retirement, and she's going to fight for the championship when Kayla Harrison is healthy. So a lot of moving parts right now in terms of the bigger names in the sport, and none of them are booked at the moment. So a lot to keep an eye on in the next couple months.
Well, it's an interesting time in MMA, particularly in boxing, actually, as boxing sort of has a bit of resurgence, but it's been weird in that a lot of it has been like YouTubers and like Jake Paul fighting in big fights that get big numbers. I mean, credit to them for marketing well. I don't know about the product in the end. But what's this business with Ronda Rousey coming back?
Yeah, so you mentioned the aforementioned YouTubers and all of that in the boxing world. I think this is the way that I look at it. There are kind of two lanes right now. There's the one night only big names, marketing events like you mentioned on Netflix that they're trying to promote big names for people to tune in and maximize their audience. There's nothing really beyond that fight. We watch it, we see what happens, and then we wait for the next big fight. They also announced Manny Pacquiao against Floyd Mayweather 2 at the Sphere later this year on Netflix. So again, these are just big headline marquee events that they're doing as sort of one-off events. And then you've got the more institutional organizations. You've got the UFC and now the launch of Zuffa Boxing, where they're trying to build divisions, prospects, infrastructure around the sport for more of the long haul. So I think those are kind of be the two lanes that we're going to see in combat sports going forward, as the sort of Netflix, Jake Paul, one night only, big names. Let's see how many viewers we can get if we throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Interesting undercards with, again, fights that don't really have real stakes. Like, we're not watching Carano and Rousey to see who's going to win the championship or how the division's going to play out or who they're going to fight next. Whereas the UFC is more of like a chapter book compared to like, a short illustrated coffee table book that you're getting with these one night only events, right? So that's the way that I'm looking at it. I think both lanes have their place. And I don't think that the UFC are looking to compete much with the other lane. And I don't think that the other lane wisely are looking to compete against the UFC or build any sort of organizational, institutional infrastructure. So that's what I think we're going to see a lot of this year.
This Pacquiao Mayweather, I thought that I was like, is this April 1st? Like, if you recall, I think, how long ago was that fight? 10 years?
It was 10. It was about 5 years too late 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it was as dreadful. Like, I just remember after watching that fight, almost unanimously, everyone goes, I will never get that hour of my life back. I hate myself for watching it. Maybe they had to wait 10 years to do it again just to hope people forgot about the first one. Like, other than the obvious answer, somebody's getting paid a lot of money. Why is this happening? And do they actually think that people will pony up? Or I guess, is this one of these Netflix ones where all you have to do is have Netflix to watch it?
All you have to do is if you have Netflix, you turn it on. And that's why they're doing this in this format, right? Because again, no stakes, no belt on the line. We don't care who's next. It's just a one night only event. And like you said, the thing with Mayweather is he made a lot of money and was a big draw in boxing, but he was never the most exciting fighter. He was always Mr. Defense, good counters, very technically sound boxing. And for whatever reason, he resonated because I guess they promoted him really well. His fights were never all that interesting. The one with McGregor might have been the most entertaining out of all of them. So just because it was fresh and new, we didn't really see mixed martial artists try boxing at that time. And now it's something that we're seeing a little bit more regularly. So I think that, again, it's one of those, if you're a viewer, it's a kind of a low-risk proposition. You turn it on if you want to watch it. You kind of get to be part of an online community event, and you have something to talk about with people, water cooler conversation for the next day, and that's it.
Well, hey, and just before we go, Aaron, How has the business model changed of UFC? I mean, like for a long time, and like, UFC now, I guess, is under that same umbrella with the company that has the WWE as well. And I mean, like, like the WWE events, you got to have Netflix. I was in Costa Rica. I could watch the Royal Rumble on my thing there. Like, how has the business model changed from almost exclusively pay-per-view and smaller events like the Ultimate Fighter being licensed to places like Sportsnet to where it is right now?
Yeah, it's diversified quite a bit, and I think that we're seeing things change a little bit. With the Paramount Plus getting the rights in the U.S., I think that's certainly a change in how they're going to be organizing their business going forward. So, I don't know. I think a lot of the TKO infrastructure with having boxing, wrestling, and the UFC under one umbrella we're just going to build a super company for combat sports, and we're going to dominate all three of those markets. And I think that's what they're looking for.
How are Canadians getting? I mean, we'll talk. I wanted to also just get, for people that want to maybe kind of dive a little bit more into UFC as we get closer to this event in Winnipeg and what you're doing on Sportsnet, both reporting and covering. But, for people that are big time UFC fans, how are they getting all of their content, both for the big numbered events and the week to week shows?
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same as it was last year. It's on Sportsnet. So if you want to watch the pay-per-view, it's on Sportsnet Plus. That's where you order it. And if you want to watch weekly programming, it's on Sportsnet Plus and Sportsnet 360 for the most part. So, it's not always Sportsnet 360 from what I understand, but for the most part, that's usually the place where you're going to catch UFC events if you want to watch it on linear television.
But all the pay-per-views are through that as well. That's, I guess, what I was getting, because I mean, I do see a lot of the events
still through Sportsnet Plus.
And then in what is it in the States now? Like, has that recently changed? Is that like a Paramount or it's a different
now
service?
Everything's on Paramount Plus in the States. So, and I think they're going to be having some cards on CBS. Yeah, it just left ESPN and now it's gone to Paramount Plus, and you'll see some cards on CBS.
Well, how early in the week will you get out here for the fights?
So we're trying to figure that out. The week prior, I'm going to be in Miami for that event. So I'm either going to be getting in on Monday night or Tuesday night, depending on when we're able to do our interviews. It would be nice to come in on the Tuesday night just because I'd like to get an extra day at home in between, but it can't always be that way. So we'll see. But I'm going to ask you a question now. I'm going to turn the tables on you here. If I'm coming to Winnipeg, where I've never been before, it's one of the few major Canadian cities I've never been to. Yeah, I've never been to Winnipeg. What do I do? What's the one place I need to go to?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll take you to a few of them, my friend, and we will roll out the red carpet. We'll take you to the Forks. You'll see everything that you kind of have to see as a quote unquote tourist in Winnipeg, and then we'll take you to some other spots that will be right up your alley, Aaron. I can assure you of that. And then we hopefully will see some great fights coming up at the Canada Life Center. Hey, quickly, just for folks that want to dive in more, your articles, content, fill people in on where they can get it all as we get closer to the 18th of April.
If you want to just follow everything that I do, you just go to www.aaron.report, and it's got a link to all of my work. So I made it easy for people. It's just www.aaron.report. Has my social links to my articles, everything all in one spot.
All right. And of course, it's all there at Sportsnet as well. AB, I can't wait to act as tour guide for you when you come in. We'll be looking forward to that. We'll stay in touch. Maybe we'll do something before you get here. But in the meantime, we're looking forward to being host to the UFC and to you. And we'll see you in just over a month.
All right, can't wait. I'm excited to check this one off my list. I think after this, it's just, I've never been to like Saskatoon, Quebec City. That's kind of it. I've been to Fredericton. So I'm trying to think of all the major cities I haven't been to in Canada, and those are like the few cities I haven't visited.
You, my friend, are long overdue. We're looking forward to it. Thanks so much for jumping on WST today, and we'll see you in the PEG in a few weeks. My pleasure. Let's do it again before the event. You bet. There's Aaron Bronsteter of Sportsnet covering all things UFC. UFC Winnipeg is official. Proper Mike Murat in the main event coming to Winnipeg on the 18th of April. All right, Murat is kind of going to join us. We're going to get back to the Jets and more. Do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their wonderful support of WST. synonymous with Winnipeg, founded and headquartered right here, and now serving Canadians coast to coast. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see him in store today. 2 Winnipeg locations, Brandon as well, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. We got some more snow yesterday, and I know our friends at Chud's Power Sports out in Gimli are going to be happy about it. Of course, we are right in the thick of snowmobile season, ice fishing season, and more. And 12 months a year, Chud's Power Sports is the power sports superstore for Winnipeg and Manitoba, located just a short drive up the road in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. They've just started the Polaris 2027 Snow Check program. It's for pre-ordering the new snowmobile models for next year. If you pre-order, you get the best deal of the year on the new models, plus an extra 2-year warranty for a total of 3 years instead of the normal 1 year. You also get $250 in free accessories and the golden ticket, which will give you $1,000 off the 2028 Snow Check if you want to trade up the 2027. It runs now until March 13th. If you head over to chudspowersports.com, the header's running on the website. Derminator and the guys and the gang at Chuds would love to see you. You can give them a call or pop by and see them right now for the Snow Check and everything else we've got going on as we finish up the winter season and get ready for spring and summer with Chud's Power Sports. Again, online at chudspowersports.com. And just before we bring in Murat, our friends at Manitoba Battery are ready to get you through the rest of this winter. If you're unsure whether your battery's got the life to get you through the next couple months, pop by Manitoba Battery, one of their 2 locations, for a free battery test. They'll be more than happy to help you out. And if you do need a new battery, what are you doing going anywhere else? Like Donnie always says, stop wasting time and money at the big box stores where you can shop local, get the best price in town by far, and the best customer service. Had a good friend, Remus, and myself went there. He said, I got a battery for about half the price I would have got it somewhere else. So the deals are certainly there, as is the service. Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive. You can also order online at manitobabattery.com, and they'll deliver citywide inside the perimeter. All right, let's get back to the Jets beat, and welcome back Murat Atesh to the program. Murat, what's going on? How are you? What was it like being back to work?
Back at the rink, man. It's crazy. Hockey is fun, turns out. It's been great to be back. Great to see everybody. A couple classy Jets sort of went out of their way to say congrats on the newborn and all that sort of stuff. Chatted with Dylan Sandberg, who's got an even newer born than I've got as well. So that was kind of a fun little bit. Good to be back in the room for sure. And even yesterday, yesterday you missed her. We brought our little girl down to Hockey for All, and she got to meet Kenny. She got to meet Sarah. It was some real VIP treatment.
That is fantastic. Well, hey, it's the start of a young life. She'll probably see a few rinks over the course of her time around here. So great to hear about the first one. Let's get right to it. I mean, obviously, there's lots of fallout and aftermath of the Olympic Games. I don't know if anyone expected to see Kyle Connor today at practice. Fill us in on the guys getting out on the ice to get ready to go to Vancouver, and Kyle Connor being out there with the team.
Yeah, just when I got into the building, I was there a bit early ahead of practice, and a couple guys were on the ice, and I sort of was told wait, I thought I saw Kyle Connor, and and then I was, confirmed. As a matter of fact, he was in Winnipeg. He was he'd pulled up, and so a few minutes later, he's on the ice. He's with his teammates. He's going through drills, and it was pretty cool to see that his focus was on his team and the stretch run and all of those sorts of things, which are so important to him right now. He has the opportunity to go to the White House with the U.S. teammates, but it seems that, having not played a whole lot for USA at the Olympics and having the stretch run for the Jets ahead of him, he just wants to get back and be with his mates and get ready for the last games of the regular season.
I read your the quotes that you put out on Twitter. Tell us about the conversation with Kyle. I mean, listen, as great as it was to be part of a gold medal winning team, Personally, it probably wasn't the best couple weeks for him, considering that, he was sitting with management for the last few games of the event. What did you garner out of your conversation with Kyle coming back today?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, he was sort of asked, why is he back? And in light of the president having that call with Team USA, and it sort of seems to be, I don't know if it is in your circles as well, but like just even tweeting yesterday, Scott Arniel's update that that Kyle Connor and Connor Hrabchak might go to the White House. There was a really big uproar. There's a lot of people in Winnipeg or Jets fans who feel slighted by that or have opinions about it. And politics and sports have really bled together quite a lot in the last, since the Olympics and in the light of that call. So first and foremost, Kyle was just asked, why? And he put his focus 100% on the business of being a Winnipeg Jet and on getting ready for the stretch run. So that was his perspective there. Otherwise, yeah, he was definitely asked about the Olympics and his role there. He said he just wanted to be a good teammate. He didn't have control over his ice time. He didn't have control over the role that he played, but he did his best to support the guys. He did his best to support his teammates, and did his best to take in some of the other Olympic, events and things like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, just on your point before, I mean, I actually really feel sorry for some, like for guys like Tkachuk or whatever that's really leaned into all of that and the Mr. President stuff and like that. I mean, whatever. They're making a concerted decision to do that. I would imagine that there was a lot of guys on that team that were sort of blindsided by everything that happened overwards. And, I think they're put in a terrible position right now. I think it seems like everyone expects people to, put all of their political leanings or whatever out front and take a stand. And most of those guys every one of those guys went there to win a gold medal and do it. And, I understand that everyone's going to want to, well, not everyone, some people are going to want people to take sides, but, it sounds like from Kyle Connor, he just wants to move past it and, not make it all about politics. He's here, he's ready. He wants to win a hockey game tomorrow, and he's back to work with his teammates.
Yeah, that's Kyle Connor's perspective as far as I gleaned it. Like I asked about that joke that the president made. I just said there's a viral moment going around. He sort of makes a joke about inviting the women. Do you have any reflections on that? And he said, no, I don't really have any thoughts on that. It's a whirlwind situation. You're celebrating with your teammates. Everything is happening all at once. I don't even remember what was said. So that's kind of, and I do have empathy for that because they did just win a gold medal. The president of their country is gassing them up. Like if you've heard the tone that he's speaking in and all that sort of stuff, they're probably a few beers deep. That's a situation. Even if you're sitting there going, this is a joke that I hate, you're probably not going to stick a wrench in the social momentum of everybody jumping up and down and all that sort of stuff. So there could be guys in that room who feel a different way than the joke that was made. And it's just not whatever. So that's that. Kyle Connor certainly didn't add any fuel in one direction or another today. And that is a very Kyle Connor thing. I think he's focused on the business at hand. I think it makes sense. If one of the guys was going to be on the ice today, it was going to be him because he didn't play as much at the Olympics, and he's sort of got more to do to get himself back into his playing shape heading into the stretch run.
I guess while we're finishing up this Olympic part of it, thoughts on the gold medal game and the performance that Hrabchak put forward, literally stealing a gold medal from our country. I mean, it's going to take a long time to get over that one for me. I'll tell you that.
A lot of my thoughts cannot be said on the radio. You know what I mean? Like when I went to the room yesterday, Connor Hrabchak's nameplate isn't up because Dom DeVincentis is there, and there's a full room of players practicing. But I just sort of turned my head and looked to the spot that Connor Hrabchak normally occupies, and in my head, all I could think were the same words that came out when he made the paddle save, the same words that came out when Nathan MacKinnon missed that wide open net, the same words that came out in overtime when it was all gas, all gas, all gas, and then MacKinnon hesitates and doesn't go get that puck. And it's just, we watched Canada dominate flow of play, dominate scoring chances. If anybody was going to score the go-ahead goal at 5-on-5, it was Team Canada. It wasn't close. Well, the States got their chances. We just had so many more of them. So it was heartbreaking to see it go down that way. Disappointing for Team Canada. Yes, credit to Connor Hrabchak, but like, I don't know. I'm too Canadian to lean into, like, congratulations to the Americans. Yes, I still feel like crap about the whole game.
Oh, dude, I mean, I thought that maybe, and the fact that it was so early in the day, like you basically had to chew on that. Like literally, like the moment, like an overtime winner, that sort of stunned sense of defeat, shock, awe, whatever you want to call it. I went to bed way earlier than I normally did just because I wanted to get Sunday over with and get on to Monday, which doesn't happen very often. And I mean,
Yeah.
like today, it's one of those things where it's 1% better or 2, but I mean, it still feels so raw. And part of it, I mean, there's so many angles to it, but like you just said, I can't imagine them playing a much better game. I mean, they literally did everything. That's a hell of a good US team, and they got dog walked for the final 40 minutes of the game, and yet they just couldn't beat Hrabchak. I mean, one of the most iconic saves of all time, the paddle save on Taves. I don't know how he sleeps for months. And then his teammate, Nate McKinnon. I mean, of all the guys, and like it was even more cruel for Jet fans because if you slow that down with the shot of him getting the puck with the open net, I mean, it's Mason Appleton in game 6 all over again. And it doesn't go. I know it doesn't go in. And you're like, how in the world? I saw some video of like a watch party in Montreal and a couple things, and they show the play and then they show the fans. It was exactly like where I was with about 90 other people in a bar. Everyone going, how the bleep did that not go in? Like you needed to see it again and again just to believe it.
It's
And
Nate
as
McKinnon.
I said, yeah,
It's
exactly.
Nate McKinnon.
I mean, with all due respect to Appleton, this wasn't Mason Appleton. This was Nathan McKinnon, who I believe is like leading the league in goals right now, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it is really a tough one to chew on and live with moving forward for a long, long time. I'll say this about Helly. We've known what a special player he is for a long, long time here in Winnipeg, and he's had the accolades, the Vezina trophies, the Hart Trophy last year, but his performance on that world stage, doing what he did, pretty much cements him as an all-time great. I'd imagine even still, he was probably going straight to the Hall of Fame with what he'd done personally. And now maybe more than ever, it highlights the one thing that he hasn't done. And that's, run the table through the Stanley Cup playoffs. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like they'll get a chance to compete for that this year, barring some sort of insane run, which is highly unlikely in the remaining games of the season.
Well, as a Canadian, I thought heading into the Olympics, the main character, the Sidney Crosby 2010 of these Olympics, probably going to be Connor McDavid. Could be Sidney Crosby. As things continue, it's like, oh my goodness, Macklin Celebrini, you're on another level compared to what I even thought. But Connor Hrabchak emerged as the main character of these Olympic Games based on his performance against Team Canada. And that is a shock. It is credit to him. It's credit to everything that he's done to be the goalie that he is. But that's a shock to the system as somebody cheering. I wasn't, I don't feel the same thing when Mason Appleton, right? I'm a reporter. I don't have that heart rate thing. But with Team Canada, my heart is all in. And so for Connor Hrabchak to steal the narrative and make it his game, it shows just how well he played. It does, in my mind, make him a first ballot Hockey Hall of Famer. I think that's going to happen. I think it cements him as amongst the greats, though you usually want, the Roberto Luongos, he won a little bit more, made it to the Stanley Cup Finals as well, didn't he? So there's still, that's the kind of tier that he's approaching, as opposed to the cup winning and all that sort of stuff that some of the elite goalies of history have done. But he's proven that he's a Hockey Hall of Famer. The one thing I guess I'll add is I've even as he struggled in the playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets, I believe that Four Nations/Olympic hockey is really up Connor Hrabchak's alley because it's reads at high speed. And the computer in that guy's brain is faster and better than the computer in any other goalie on the planet. It's just chaotic reflexes that maybe other goalies have him edged out at. And I think that in the ultimate legacy of his career, he's still going to need to show up in the Stanley Cup playoffs and deal with getting beat up in the crease and deal with playing behind Winnipeg Jets, sometimes porous defense and all that sort of stuff, because it's a different style of play, even if the number of scoring chances are the same. So first ballot Hall of Famer, still some stuff to do.
Murat, I'm interested in your perspective on this. And I talked with Remus about this yesterday. I kind of feel that, his performance yesterday to casual hockey fans was an eye opener. Like, I've heard of this guy. I'd never really seen him. Oh my God. He just did what? He won a Hart Trophy. He's won all these Vezina trophies. How is the team that he's on not been better? And I can't help but think that maybe the pressure was already here within the market for people that are watching our show and that are following the Winnipeg Jets every day. But do you think that in the greater hockey circles and conversation, what Hrabchak did ramps up the pressure on Cheveldayoff to get it right and do it quickly to avoid what's an incredibly disappointing season that we're in the middle of right now, and make the most of arguably the best goaltender of his generation?
I mean, I sure hope so. We have these conversations about other all-world players. Can you imagine the Edmonton Oilers never winning a cup with Connor McDavid, right? The best player of his generation. Well, goaltending is tough to measure, but Connor Hrabchak's contribution to wins is kind of like Connor McDavid's over the course of a regular season. So to imagine that you're missing the playoffs in 2025, 2026, when you thought you built a playoff team, you missed it the year before Bonus was hired. That's 2 seasons in the midst of a run where you've got the best goalie of his generation winning multiple Vezina trophies, a Hart Trophy as MVP, and you can't build a playoff team around that. That does put this season's failure in perspective. Like, we can praise the Jets for a number of things they do well. We can say things like, well, it took Sandberg a while to get going, Lowry, okay, Taves, etc. There are players who will probably be better next year than they were this year. But at the end of the day, to miss the playoffs entirely in the midst of an all-world performance an all-world run of performances by this goalie who's proven he can do it again because you finally put him behind a good team and look how well he can play, it absolutely should be contrasted with how the Winnipeg Jets season has gone, and missing the playoffs is a failure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And it's not just likely missing the playoffs, it's to do it coming off a President's Trophy campaign where you were better than every single team in the NHL. Like, to get passed by 24 or 25 teams just got coming out of my mouth seems almost impossible. And yet here we are. I want to get to your Taves piece in just a minute, but coming back with where they are right now, Morrissey's on IR. I can't imagine that he's going to play over the course of this road trip. We'll see what happens with Hrabchak. I mean, from the sounds with Arnie, I'm sure he's planning on sticking him in the net as soon as he can when he comes back. How do you think this is going to be managed over the course of, let's face it, the first 5 games are really the most crucial because after those 5 games, it's the trade deadline, and then you're playing out the stretch with the players that you have on the roster.
Yeah, for the next 5 games, Winnipeg gets to believe in the myth that they're still in it. And that is a myth. 11 points out, multiple teams to pass. The kind of tear that they have to go on is, in my mind, beyond this team at its best. And, well, presently it's not going to have Connor Hrabchak for a couple of days. Probably Anaheim, I think, is the read on when he might play next. Neil Pionk is week to week. Nino Niederreiter is week to week. Josh Morrissey, Scott Arniel said that he hopes will be available on the homestand. He won't be available on this road trip, so that's that. And you weren't playing with a ton of momentum heading into the Olympic break. So you've got these 5 games, and you can tell yourself, hey, like Jonathan Taves told me, hey, I don't know, this isn't a playoff team. We still have a chance here. You can rattle off 5 straight wins and somehow redeem the possibility. More likely, if you're anything but perfect, this is a selling trade deadline for the Winnipeg Jets, and the myth that they're still in it will finally be deflated, as much as they're refusing to admit that quite yet.
Now, you had mentioned, the Pionk being week to week and Josh Morrissey out, which going into Vancouver tomorrow has a certain big stand playing with Dylan DeMello. And on PP1, is this one of the most opportunistic times of showcasing a player before a trade deadline as we've seen maybe in the 2.0 era?
I mean, I've never heard of anything like this, actually. Like, in terms of just how much opportunity a player will suddenly have. And I don't know the degree to which the Winnipeg Jets are shopping Logan Stanley right now. I saw his piece with Ken Wiebe of the Free Press, where he says he hopes there'll be negotiations soon. And so that it's possible that they plan on keeping him or are trying to keep him. But you have a guy going on the heater that he's been on all season long, career highs out of nowhere. Everything he shoots goes in. It's magic, and it's already unsustainable based on shooting percentages and just how many bounces have gone his way. And now he's number 1D. Now he's on the top power play unit with Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Gabriel Velarde, and Cole Perfetti. Like, this is a chance to ratchet up the point production even more. Show the world how much you believe in him at a time when your other defensemen are injured. I mean, yeah, that could be a pump and dump right there. If the Winnipeg Jets are ready to move on from Logan Stanley, it sure could.
We'll get to Taves in a minute. But speaking of the lineup, and whether Stanley and DeMello play more at 5-on-5 than Sandberg, Salomonsson, we'll see. I think they're both going to play a ton. Are we going to see Ville in the lineup tomorrow?
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. We spoke to him today. He really seems to be getting a chance. He knows it's coming because other people are hurt, and it's been a tough road for him yet again, just getting back to his game this season. But I believe he was skating with Luke Shen today, if I recall correctly, on what should be the third pair. And he was also taking second power play unit shifts during those drills. So once again, it's Ville Heinola's 17th last chance to prove that he's an NHL player, which shocks even him. He says today that his first year getting into the NHL, scoring early, it might have given him kind of almost a false hope early on in his career.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll say this about Ville. I know that I think he was really disappointed the way things went in training camp, and wasn't particularly good for the first sort of couple months of the year. Coming out of the Christmas break, he has been very productive. A big part of the success that the Moose has had. I saw him play, was it not last weekend, but the weekend before I went to the game, and he scored. I think he had an assist on David Gustafson's goal and was very, very noticeable. And interestingly enough, he was playing with Elias Salomonsson, who's also here right now. And obviously, the time frame just doesn't meet up because this is, it for team control of Ville. I think there's zero chance that he'll be back next season. I do wonder, though, Murat, if he comes out and, plays well in these next couple games, might there be an interested team at the end of next week that maybe takes a flyer on Ville at a relatively low price?
Yeah, it would be a low price given how much of his career he spent in the AHL. But, people have seen all kinds of NHL teams go deep in the playoffs and need way more than 6 defensemen. So I don't know that this is a really big opportunity for Ville Heinola. If the Jets do get Josh Morrissey back on the homestand, as Scott Arniel hopes, Heinola is the first guy out of the lineup. But he's got a bit of a run here. He can prove that he's an NHL player. And a team that needs, that has its top 6 sorted out, has a 7th and an 8th guy sorted out as well, can then look at a successful Heinola, if he is successful, and say, hey, well, we could use that guy if it comes to it as we build for the playoffs. And you've seen depth defensemen get moved at trade deadlines a whole bunch of times because teams are trying to build insurance policies for themselves.
Murat of The Athletic with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk as the Jets head out to Vancouver tomorrow to take on the lowly Canucks to begin this. One of the other call-ups, Murat, is Walker Duehr. Is this just temporary or might he stick around? Might he see some games in your opinion?
Well, it seems like it's temporary because Scott Arniel was asked about his interest in seeing Walker Duehr. It looks like he's going to play Tanner Pearson as the next man up first. And then he says he'll go from there. And it kind of didn't sound like Walker Duehr was a top priority to get into the lineup. At the same time, though, I remember training camp thinking that if you were going based on, this non-hockey professional, I'm a writer, I'm not a coach, right? If you're going on my read of who was playing at what level, Walker Duehr would have been a fine 12th or 13th forward for that team. I liked the level he was at. And if you're looking for a little bit of offense, he has scored, right? He can score. It just doesn't seem like that's his role on this team. And as much as I'm curious to see if he's got some NHL chops to him right now, it doesn't seem like he's first up on the plate.
Yeah, listen, I'm not holding my breath to see Duehr in the next 4 or 5 games. However, we're looking at this list of players, and there are guys like Koepke, there are guys like Nyquist, Vlad Nemetsnikov, that could, Tanner Pearson as well, that could be on the move with expiring contracts. And if anything, I think if a guy like Duehr gets in the mix, it's probably in a couple of weeks when a few spots have opened up after the NHL trade deadline. The one guy that, based on your conversation, doesn't sound like he's going anywhere is Jonathan Taves. Tell us about sitting down with the one-on-one with JT and what he had to say about the upcoming trade deadline and his view of his spot here in Winnipeg and future with the Jets.
Yeah, it was great to sit down with him, and he was in good spirits yesterday, just sort of talking about the mental state he's in coming out of the break and believing he can get back to that post-Christmas level, that idea that he was making plays into the middle of the ice, that he has confidence that he can carry it, that he can attack and contribute more often. And he had really done that for January before maybe cooling off heading into the Olympic break. So we talked a little bit about that. But I think the number one news item is that I asked him, hey, legitimately, Cup contenders value veteran, Cup winning, Conn Smythe winning depth pieces. What is your future here? What are we thinking? And has that crossed your mind? And he says, listen, I wouldn't consider going anywhere. And as a player with a full no movement clause, he has that control. So we've discussed it, you and me, we've gone back and forth. Is this about Winnipeg and his homecoming, or is this about him being a mercenary going to a Cup contender if it comes to it? And it sure seems like he's all in on Winnipeg. He was unequivocal about that and his gratitude for the opportunity to be here.
From reading the article, it sounded like not only is he planning to be here for the rest of this season, but I don't think this is going to be a one and done year of a comeback and hanging them up. Did you get that as well, or was that just me reading between the lines?
Well, he didn't say as much unequivocally on that front, but yeah, that's still the impression I have. I'm not betting on a Jonathan Taves retirement this summer. I think that part of what he's up to is proving that he's an NHL player and can contribute. And I might be leaning onto a small sample size in terms of that January run, but I believe that he is. I believe that he could be a third or a fourth line center on a quality team, depending on how consistently he can maintain that level. For any player at his age, getting the body to do that night in, night out is a challenge. And we've talked so much about his health comeback and all that sort of stuff. It's probably a bigger challenge for him this year, just getting to that density of games after 2 years away. But if he can play, he seems like someone who will. And it doesn't feel like the end of the road for Jonathan Taves to me either.
Folks, if you haven't read it already, it is up at theathletic.com right now. Murat, well, you know what? Listen, it was so kind of you during your mat leave or pat leave, whatever they call it, to still jump on with us and talk some hockey through the break. But it's great to have you back in practice and back on the grind, and really enjoyed the piece today with some pretty very important news in and around Jonathan Taves as far as all of our conversations here as we get closer to next week's trade deadline. And we got a game tomorrow. Not quite the matchup that the Jets were in Vancouver last year, battling for first place in the league, but should be a very interesting couple of weeks around the team and around the entire National Hockey League as things get going again after what was an incredible Olympic tournament. We'll let you get back to daddy duty. Thanks so much for doing this. We'll look forward to catching up real soon, pal.
Thanks for having me, Huss. Thank you.
Good stuff. There is Murat of The Athletic. All right, Pat Gregoire is going to join us in just a couple minutes. Do want to shout out our friends at Clean Line. Of course, we did the latest lines for the Winnipeg Jets, which if you joined us late, the forward lines are as you would expect. But with the injured defensemen, some new faces and the new look. Logan Stanley with Dylan DeMello, Sandberg and Salamanca, and Billy Hainala with Luke Shen is the way it looks like tomorrow. Of course, we'll get the official lines coming out of the skate with Connor tomorrow in Vancouver. They're always brought to you by Clean Line, who's got your back 24/7, 365 with 24/7 emergency services for plumbing, heating, and electrical. Remember the number 204-500-2001. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience in the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. Check them out online at cleanline.ca. Well, we're back to the grind for the Jets season. And if you're looking for a spot tomorrow night to get out and watch the game, of course, it's your local Boston Pizza. Awesome to see how packed all the BPs were on Sunday morning, bright and early for the gold medal game that didn't go the way we wanted. But BP in your neighborhood, always the gathering spot for the game. Of course, pick a player contest for all Jet games, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. A little too cold to go out tonight? You can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Man, busy couple weeks at Royal Sports for the Olympic Games. Now we transition, getting closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and of course, Blue Jays season. Want to get your new Jays gear for the upcoming year? Royals got you covered there. Of course, Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl gear coming in, and hockey, and tons of snowboard going on right now as people get ready to get out of town over the next 4 to 6 weeks for a little snowboard or ski trip. Royal Sports has been the snowboard leaders in town for over 25 years. Got to be seen to be believed. Everything that the Hasbeeks have there at 750 Pembina Highway. Pop by and check it out in person at Royal Sports, and follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, Patty is ready to go. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's check in with our pal Pat Gregoire of Coolbet, who was part of our record-breaking stream Friday morning. The good old days, Patty, the good old days.
Yes.
Back when Canada was winning games in thrilling fashion. What a blast that was Friday. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite as much of a blast at the end of Sunday's game. How are you holding out in the aftermath of our golden disappointment?
It still stings. It really does. But I tell you, I'm so happy we didn't have a stream for the gold medal game. Not because I got to see some buddies at a pub at 7:30 in the morning that I hadn't seen in a long time and enjoy some morning Guinnesses, maybe some Caesars. But no, to see all of our hearts ripped out of our chest at once would have probably made for some great television. But I'm thankful that I was able to kind of slowly pay for my bill and get the hell out because, for as amazing as that game was, probably one of the best hockey games I think I've ever watched. nothing could have prepared for the way it finished and how many times I thought, okay, this has to be it. Here's where we're going to tie it, or here's where we're going to go ahead. I still can't believe it. Hats off to your guy, Connor Hrabchak. What a game from him. What a performance. I think it's an absolute sham that he did not win MVP. I know our friends in Edmonton disagree, but I mean, for his game alone, I think that it was worth the price of admission. And I know there's probably a lot of people at Coolbet right now that are pissed off as well, because I'm sure a few people emotionally hedged and bet on him to be the MVP just in case.
Well, you know what the weird thing was, I think, and I mean, again, I read this online from, I think, one of the other writers, but I think because it's a tournament award, they put the votes in after the first period of the final game, which seems insane to me, because the final 40 minutes of the Hrabchak show was, I mean, one for the ages, and he is the only reason that the gold medal didn't stay north of the border. How are Leaf fans feeling about Austin Matthews finally coming up big in the big game? Although, listen, it wasn't like he scored, but I mean, he did play a big role on that team. But the captain of the gold medal champions coming back to a place where he's consistently disappointed for so long, I'm sure there's a lot of people kind of coming to grips with Austin being a champion, and unfortunately, much like we are here in Winnipeg, with it not being for our team, but for the guys that we desperately wanted to lose.
It's bittersweet, right? Us for both these fan bases, because coming into this tournament, what was the knock on both of our superstars is that these guys are chokers and they can't get it done in the big game. And what happens? I mean, Hrabchak obviously a much bigger role than Austin Matthews, but let's not forget there was probably 3 or 4 unbelievable defensive plays that Matthews made. A big reason why, outside of not being able to score in an empty netter or dangling yourself out of a breakaway, a big reason why, there wasn't a goal on the side of Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon was because of a lot of that great defensive play from Matthews. And again, the internet can't believe what you see. And I'll be honest, I have not spent a whole ton of time on Twitter. For a guy that is criminally online and always on X, I have opted out of a lot. But one of the things I did see on Instagram today was Matthews has 3 points in the Four Nations final, and then now in the gold medal final as well. So as I don't need to say it because the Hughes brothers said it after, the Toronto media should be talking about Austin Matthews being a winner. You better believe I'm going to use this as a narrative that I am going to spin. I'm going to ask everyone in Edmonton how many gold medals does their captain have, because my captain's got a gold medal. So I'm gonna spin zone this to take my broken heart, and at least I can spin zone it into something happy here.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of guys that are going to have gold medals that'll be able to go and show them off on the golf course in the 3rd week in April, unfortunately. For those of us north of the border. I mean, by my count, both Tkachuk, Matthews, Hrabchak, I mean, all these guys that came up huge and, won the gold medal are going to be out, which is actually one of the crazy things right now. I was over at Coolbet. I was looking at the NHL futures. And for folks that maybe want to get in a little action on the rest of the season, there's a ton. I mean, you can bet all the teams to make or miss the playoffs. There's totals on points for the finishing a spot. But man, when you look at the numbers of just how unlikely it is for teams like the Leafs to make the playoffs, 3-1, the Florida Panthers, who are plus 205, and that is strictly a reputation number. It should be more like probably a greater number than where the Leafs is. Obviously, the Jets and the disappointing season that they've had. Ottawa is almost 2-1 to make the playoffs as well. You look at the East, Carolina is always sort of the bridesmaid in the conference finals. Tampa is an absolute wagon this year. Other than that, Pat, to be honest, it reminds me of the AFC playoffs this year in the NFL.
Yeah.
in that so many of the usual suspects that we think of as the real contenders with the top players are not going to be invited to the party.
No, it's crazy. And it's one of these things where I think, if, let's say, a Toronto does get in the wild card spot, or even, I mean, I don't think the Panthers are. They're just far too banged up and just not at that point. But maybe even a team like the Capitals, like, I don't know. For me, it's like this is the year maybe that a team in that wild card spot could go on a run, possibly. Maybe this is what the Leafs needed to do, is get out of that division, get into a wild card spot, and go on a run. But like, just I get it. Like, I understand. It's just when you see like the Detroit Red Wings and the Montreal Canadiens sitting there at second and third with 72 points, this Islanders team now all of a sudden in a playoff spot. The Penguins are the Penguins, but it's just, to me, there's just the Sabres are in a bloody playoff spot. Huss. This is crazy. This thing, I do think, like, I don't have the odds in front of me. I would love to see what, like, it's got to be like the Lightning and the Hurricanes, super, super heavy to come out of the East right now, because realistically, outside of one of these goaltenders catching fire, like, and you know me, I'm the biggest Carolina doubter on the planet. But like this, if this is not the year for Carolina to finally get out of the East, is there going to be another year? Like, this has to be the year to do it, right?
Well, can they beat Tampa? I mean, like, I think you'll make them a big favorite. Just to answer your question over at Kubet, Lightning 2-1 to win the East, Carolina 3-1 to win the East. Who do you think the 3 team on the board is?
I wish I didn't pull this up, because that's why I've got this big smile on my face. The Panthers. The Panthers, who are what? 8 points out of a playoff spot right now. That is insane. Buffalo at 14-1. Like, that's so disrespectful to the Montreal Canadiens, who are second in their division right now, and they are 17-1 to get out of the conference. That's insane.
How about Detroit? Detroit's the same as Ottawa. That's like 5 back right now. I mean,
that's
Washington's
crazy,
at 18.
Man.
They're on the outside looking in. Pittsburgh's at 19. You've got Columbus has shorter numbers than the Islanders. The Islanders are in a spot right now and have the favorite for the Vezina Trophy, and they're 25-1. The Bruins are in a playoff spot. They're 50.
It's crazy,
I've never seen anything like this right now. And again, there's a lot of hockey left to be played, so there is no guarantees. But honestly, when I look at the East, like Washington has played 59 games. Columbus has only played 56. Like, Columbus is very live right now. And Columbus's number to make the playoffs is probably close to a pick'em. Yeah, it's -112, yes, -118, no. And I mean, they are 65 points and they've played 56 games. The good thing for them is that they're in the Met. So even if you don't catch the wild card teams, you could catch the Islanders, who are 4 points up, but the Blue Jackets have 2 games in hand. Now, we'll see how they come out of the break, because they were on an all-world heater since the fixer took over in Bones. I think 11 or 12-1, 9-1 in their last
9-1 their last 10, yeah. Seven straight, right? Like,
I mean, they had just kept on getting it done. And like, I'll definitely be pulling for Columbus, and I'll be pulling for the Buffalo Sabres as well. But I mean, like, outside of Carolina and Tampa, who've been playoff regulars, Montreal, Detroit, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, Buffalo, Boston, every one of those teams was probably plus money to make the playoffs at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And yet here we are right now. It's a bit of a different story in the West. But what's actually fascinating about the West...
Sorry, I just before we get to the West, because I wanted to pull this up here, because I'm just going back to my futures bets, and I had Tampa as the divisional winner. Again, it's still far from over. I had their points over total, and then I've also got them for the Cup winner. People will also remember, though, I'm the ones who mushed your guys' Jets. I was over 98.5 points. I was them to win the division at 6-1. So as much as I'm starting to celebrate how great my call was with Tampa Bay, I'm also at fault for the reason why, after what an unbelievable season was for the Jets, that they've fallen on their face. So I will take the one W and I'll take the other L as well.
Well, just speaking of W's, I mean, I haven't even been able to be happy about the 30-1 pick of Celebrini to score the most goals in the Olympics.
I know.
Like, it was so great. I pulled up my account like Sunday night and I looked at it, and I had the top on Canada, top in the thing, and I didn't even crack a smile. So I guess it's better that it didn't come through. Although the account would have looked a lot better if he'd scored an OT or Nathan McKinnon can score. But I digress. The Avalanche are an incredibly, they're a huge, huge favorite to win the Cup right now. They're plus 120 to win the West. Vegas and Edmonton, plus 500, Edmonton plus 550. And then Dallas and Minnesota at 10-1 each, which is the same number that the Panthers have right now in the East. And it just goes to show how strong everyone is in the West. But, like, what are your thoughts on the Avs? They had that ridiculous first half of the season. They were sort of just going through the motions, it seemed like, for the last dozen games or so going into the Olympic break. But, man, the disappointment, and in particular, two Avalanche stars, Nathan McKinnon and Devon Taves, who have those moments from the gold medal game where they didn't score. I mean, I joked that these guys might be months before they get a good night's sleep. Like, I don't know whether this is something that hangs around with them a little bit, or for a psycho like McKinnon, that this just makes them even more committed, motivated, and all in to take care of the bad taste in their mouth from the Olympic Games by winning another cup.
Yeah, listen, I'm never going to tell someone to bet a championship at 22-1 when we're not even we're halfway through the season, or just over halfway through the season. That's something that you would see at the start of the playoffs for a team that's a heavy favorite. It's ridiculous, but I think you are totally right. With a guy like McKinnon looking down at the stuffy that he was handed to after he got his silver medal, like, that is just a guy that is absolutely beside himself that he could not find a way to score and to win his nation a gold medal. And I think it is going to add a chip to his shoulder. I also think the fact that we saw that trade today as well, freeing up some cap space, I wouldn't put it out of the realm where Colorado is also buying at the deadline and trying to bring in more pieces to help improve this roster. This team's all in. They are in win now mode. Let's be honest. I think if you ask McKinnon, sure, he's got his one cup, but I think if you asked him, he would have much preferred to have a couple right now, and probably believes that he hasn't lived up to his own expectations. That's how crazy this guy is. He's and he's motivated from Sid. Everything that Sid does, he wants to do. He wanted to get another medal to try to continue to climb what Sid has done. He wants to win another cup because that's what Sid has done. So for me, it's like there's a lot of other value on the board, but at the same time, I have a hard time not seeing this Avalanche team win. Like, they are just on a different level. I wouldn't be surprised, Huss, like, if we do see a little bit of a lull just after the break. But come to shove, this is a damn good hockey team. And I do really believe that with the trade today, I think they're going to try to bring in some more pieces.
Yeah, that trade, by the way, between Penguin, the Pens, and Avalanche, Sam Girard, and a second rounder going to Pittsburgh. So, they're still looking to add assets, even though they're in a playoff spot right now. And Brett Kulak, the former Oiler, and a pretty nice bit of business. I mean, as Chris Johnson notes, Dubas turned Tristan Jarry, who was on waivers last year, and Sam Poulin into Stuart Skinner, Sam Girard, second-round picks in 2028 and in 2029. And yet there's still a playoff team. I guess the big issue for Pittsburgh is the Sid and when he'll be able to play again and whether he can be there for this push to keep them into the playoffs. Still kind of waiting for some clarity on what his story is.
Huss, I mean, that's a great point. I didn't even begin to think about that. You want to talk about motivation, though. If that guy comes back, I don't know if that team's really good enough to win a Stanley Cup, but to win a round, maybe. Like, I think this is a team, if he is healthy, but let's be honest, man, like, for him to sit out in that game, it must have been really bad. You can't tell me he couldn't been the 13th forward and been a power play specialist like Reinhart. Like, the guy barely played. Like, it must be really, really bad. The fact we haven't really heard much as well also kind of leads to me that this is probably not great. But you want to talk about psychos? He's a psycho as well. And I don't know if, Huss, I did want to give out a couple, because this is probably up until tomorrow will be the last time Coolbet for a while is going to have quite the extensive offer like this. Macklin Celebrini to win the Hart at plus 350 is certainly intriguing. And maybe this is my bias and recency bias, but like plus 350, and the fact that you can also get the San Jose Sharks to make the playoffs at plus 225. I think this playoffs, this Olympics has to only elevate Celebrini and make him believe I am one of the best on the planet. I had two of the best players in our generation feeding me the puck, deferring to me with that trust to know that, like, game is on my stick, and being around those guys and seeing what makes them tick, what makes those guys special. I think that's also an eye-opener as well. The fact that there was never a point once, Huss, where you and I and Jake were all on him to begin with, but there wasn't once where you're like, the moment's too big for this kid, or, oh man, maybe we see him bump down. Like, no, the guy was driving the line sometimes. So the fact you can get that good of a number, and let's be honest, a lot of it's about narratives too when it comes to this voting. So him coming off this, him being a new fresh face, if Colorado does take a little bit of that snoozer, which maybe they do going into the playoffs, if they've reached that point and he's racing to get into the playoffs and he gets this San Jose team in, we know the voters like a better story. And I think the better story really is a young Macklin Celebrini coming fresh off an Olympics, pushing the lowly Sharks into the postseason. I think that's got to be worth something for talking about most valuable player.
Listen, to me, that Celebrini bet is a bet for the Sharks to make the playoffs. Like, I think if they make the playoffs, I think he gets the votes. I mean, to your point, I think there is a little bit of voter fatigue with McKinnon and McDavid. And I think that you look at both of those teams and know that McDavid has Draisaitl and McKinnon has Makar. Celebrini, like, in the definition of the award, like, I mean, I'll still say McDavid's the best player on the planet, and
Sure.
in a heartbeat, I don't think, but the most valuable player to the team, I mean, Macklin Celebrini, with what he's done to make the Sharks a legitimate NHL team and a potential playoff team, absolutely, he'll get a ton of votes on this. And to be honest, if you're choosing between one or the other, I would say plus 350 on Celebrini to win the Hart is a better bet than Sharks plus 225 to make the playoffs, because I think it's very likely that if they do make the playoffs, he's going to be the guy that gets that nod in a tough three-way race. And just one thing back to Pittsburgh for a minute. We talk about Pittsburgh and where they are. Like, never mind being in the playoffs, Pat, in that division, there's a very good chance that they'll have home ice in the first round. Like, they're a point up on the Islanders with 2 games in hand. So, I mean, if you just extrapolate points per games, you're basically talking about another 3 points. You're talking about a 4-point cushion right now, which, again, is significant. So, I'm with you.
It hangs on the balance of Sid, though. That's the only thing is how long. And I think that's why right now, Huss, and I'm looking, because I wanted to see what their mismake number would be on the playoffs. They're not on the board. And I can almost guarantee you the reason why that's not there is because the sports books and Coolbet most specifically is afraid to put a big number for them to miss the playoffs or make the playoffs. And we find out Sid's out for the next 2 months, or we find out, okay, he's going to be back in 2 weeks. That's how important he is to this team, not just his performance on the ice, but just, him being the captain, the leader, the catalyst of that team. So if he's healthy, that's a great bet. If he's not healthy, man, I would be looking at the no column for them to miss the playoffs. But obviously, once that news comes out and these odds pop up, it's going to be heavily swung the other way. So,
the other awards that are sort of up in, and here's another one: Werenski, Makar, pick 'em -110 for each guy to win the Norris. I think that Columbus wins, if Columbus makes the playoffs, I think Werenski's going to get that award, fair or not. Again, sort of that voter fatigue. The Art Ross is up for grabs right now. McDavid's got a 3-point lead. He's +125. McKinnon's +160, and Kucherov is +170. I think I do like McDavid in that one. And you know what I think the best bet is? Jack Adams, John Cooper +150. He has never won it. Overtime in the Olympics be damned. I mean, Lindy Ruff's going to get some love, and it's always the team that makes the biggest turnaround, and Buffalo certainly has done that. But I really do think that this is John Cooper's time. And if you're looking for a little bit of a flyer on one of these awards, I don't mind John Cooper at all to win the Jack Adams. Those are all there up right now over at Cool Bet until the puck drops tomorrow.
And Huss, you know it. Like, yes, Lindy Ruff, great story. You talk about the storylines. Look, everyone knows. Look at over my shoulder here. Buffalo. I'm a Bills fan. I went to school in Buffalo. Was around the Buffalo Sabres when I interned at WKBW, around that organization. I know this. And the fan base down in the 716 right now, even though they're enjoying themselves, they're waiting until the floor falls out. And until I see an X beside their name in the standings, I don't trust this team at all. Because as long as they're wearing those sweaters and as long as they're playing at that arena, at KeyBank Arena, they're still the Sabres. They still are the cursed Sabres. They still have the longest playoff drought. Like, until I see that X, I'm not believing in this group just yet.
I'm believing in them. I'm all in on Buffalo. And
I want to believe in them. I want to believe
in
them.
Yeah. No, listen, I get it.
We do a little...
I'm with you too. Until we see the tickets being printed and sold and a game officially announced for round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, we will wait. But yeah, you got about 24 hours to jump in on all those NHL futures if you want to take a look over at Cool Bet on those. I am going to be doing, I'm not sure whether this will be tomorrow or Thursday, but a bit of a Brier betting preview. Going to lean on hopefully our guy Cullen on curling, but everything's up right now. Nice. And interestingly, the Canada and Brad Jacobs +105 to win the event just after the meat grinder of the Olympic Games. That could be a nice opening for Dunstone. Or, man, you want to talk about a storybook ending. How about Gushu on the rock in his final year? Gushu's +320. Mike McEwen, Winnipeg's Mike McEwen, who is representing Saskatchewan, +675. Those are the top 4 teams for the Brier. But listen, before we go, you'll be proud of me last night. Just trying to get my mind off of the hockey game. I'm like, what the heck am I going to watch tonight? I guess it'll be Raw. And then I realized at the end of the show, the TGL was on last night with a little bit of a doubleheader.
Yes, it was.
So again, I don't think it's up in the main side, but if you go to golf, and then you can check in on, like, when you go to one of the golf things at the top, you just go down, you'll see tomorrow's golf league. We got another doubleheader tonight, and Pat, you'll be proud. I had Atlanta in the first game at +105, and then I faded them in the second game with LA, hit both of them, and parlayed them together. So I'm seeing the board well in the TGL tonight. And tonight it's in New York. It's New York going up against the Bay. I will say, if you go to the TGL website, there's a thing where they ask you a whole bunch of questions, and it tells you what team you should vote for or you should be a fan of. I've been assigned to the Bay GC, which I'm pumped for because
welcome to the Bay Hive.
Yes, exactly. They were big last year. My guy Min Woo is there. But if you go there, this is key. Like, if you want to, watch this stuff, and if you want to lay a little nickel on it or something, go to TGL, and they've got the full match previews. Because what's weird about this is that sometimes you'll see different players playing for different teams.
Yeah.
Like last night, I loved Atlanta early. And then in the second game, they rolled out Lucas Glover, who was horrible and seemed like he was having the worst 2 hours of his life as it well. But here's the way things look for the early game. The Bayhive is bringing Ludwig Aberg, Wyndham Clark, and Shane Lowry up against the New York team, which is Xander, Matty Fitz, and Ricky Fowler. Odds for that game have New York at -120 and the Bay at -103. And then the late game tonight is New York again. They're taking on Boston Common. Now, Boston has moved Rory McIlroy out and Michael Thorbjornsen out. And Keegan Bradley's going to be joined by Hideki Matsuyama and Adam Scott coming off a great event.
Ooh,
so
interesting.
I actually think I like Boston Common in the second game. That I think is my favorite pick. I'm going to have to decide whether I go with my team as assigned to me by the algorithm at TGL and the Bayhive, or Xander, Matty Fitz, and Ricky Fowler in the first matchup. I kind of like New York to go 1-1, so I think I might go New York and then Boston Common for the TGL. But again, you can find it in just click on any of the golf things, and at the top you got to go down to the right, Tomorrow's Golf League, and you'll see it. And I will say this: they brought in some very, very cool new holes. And the course design, they did a thing with one of the course designers yesterday about how they put it all together. So cool. But you want to put something up in the exclusives for tonight? Or the exclusives or in the combo card? It's probably pretty lean.
Well, if it's okay, what do we want here? Do we want
why don't we go New York in the first game and Boston Common in the second game?
All right, before the boost, it's plus 250, so we should be able to get a pretty good number. That probably will be in the combo cards, but we'll get Jake. We'll get Jake to post that up. But I know we'll get Avdog and the boys first to put it up, and then Jake will tweet that out. So either check the combo cards or check the exclusives.
We might have to do that right away because if I'm not mistaken, yes, it
starts in an hour.
5 p.m. Eastern. It does. So. I mean, if we can get it up, great. Just check the combo cards before 4 p.m. if you want to jump in on that. And otherwise, obviously, it's there. You can find it.
It should be combo cards. It should be combo cards. So that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Deep dive on the Cognizant today. I will send you some picks, and we can get something up in the combos for that. Ben Griffin out and Bridgman out. So it is wide open. Shane Lowry's the favorite. 14-1. Only two players. Gerard at 16-1, under 20, and then a pretty even line. Basically from the 20s to 40s for this event, which of course formerly was the Honda Classic. Patty, great stuff. Yeah. Unbelievable day on Friday. We'll do that again at some point very soon. Yeah. I don't know whether we'll have the same magic of the Olympic semifinal with the game that we had for it, but we will definitely do it again. And we'll hook up offline. And now that we're kind of back to a regular scheduled programming, people have been asking for another poker date. So we'll have to set a few of those up moving forward as we get going. But thanks a lot for jumping on today, pal. As always, great stuff.
No problem. Yeah, Friday was a blast. I want to thank everyone for popping in. It was outstanding. We've reached out to all the winners as well for the swag, the tickets. I know Eric is all sorts of fired up. So keep an eye out. March 14th is going to be behind the bench. We're hoping to see we can see him on TV. So again, I'd love to do it again. You read my mind about the poker tournaments, Huss. We absolutely love partnering with you, man. We love everyone at WST. This is what makes this partnership so special. Days like Friday and the poker tournaments and everything. So keep an eye out for the combo cards for the TGL special. Keep your eye out for the combos for our Cognizant combo card that's coming up as well. And I probably put a Greggy's golf special together, and then some of my outrights, I'll throw them out on a tweet because I'll be honest, the Cognizant Classic's not quite the fifth major. It's definitely not the sexiest tournament, but looking at this board, there is some value, my friend.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. Again, we got to, now that the Olympics is over, it was such an amazing 2 weeks. Now we got to get back to regularly scheduled programming, and that will definitely include a few golf picks on Wednesdays. Pat, thanks as always, buddy. Have a great one.
Thanks, us. Talk soon.
All right, there is Patty Gregoire with us here on WST. Hey, folks, thanks again to everyone that bid on the Aikens Lake trip for the HSC Foundation and their big Savor Mexico. The needs as the HSC, though, are 12 months a year with incredible challenges for Manitoba's biggest hospital. I can tell you, as someone that received emergency spine surgery, and spent a lot of time there at that hospital, this sort of item that they're looking to raise the funds for, $425,000 for the Striker Q guidance system, spine guidance software for surgical navigation, will be phenomenal. With this investment, the HSC will be able to perform 200 additional spine surgeries per year and 400 additional joint replacements per year as well. That's a 15% increase in spine surgery capacity, leading to shorter wait times, safer procedures, and better outcomes for patients across Manitoba. So the campaign is on now, raising $425,000, and every dollar will be matched, doubling the impact of each donation. Of course, you'll get a tax receipt for that as well. Just go in and just Google HSC Fund a Need 2026. It'll take you there. You can make that donation, tax receipt for it all, and all for the continued great work of the Health Sciences Center for the Fund a Need campaign. And again, I'll look forward to getting together with our winners at Aikens Lake. If you're looking for just a world-class fly-in fishing experience here in Manitoba, where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot. And as amazing as the world-class fishing is during the day, the good times at Big Molly's and the incredible hospitality of the Terren family and the Aikens team is really what makes Aikens so special. Also, probably a dream gig for a young person for the summer. I was talking to Pitt on the weekend as they finished up Festival de Voyageurs, and they are looking for some dock hands and a couple of other people. So if you are maybe a university student that wants to spend your summer in paradise with an incredible crew, or maybe you've got a young one finishing high school and is a big fan of fishing and the outdoors, go to aikenslake.com, fire Pitt a message at Aikens Lake on X, and you can get some more information and get on that. But aikenslake.com for all information on all of that. Been a fun show today. Obviously, big news with Kyle Connor being back. Did not see that happening so quickly right away. Hellebuck will be meeting the team at some point on this road trip. And a pretty interesting look at this lineup for tomorrow. You're going to have Logan Stanley playing with Dylan DeMello, Stan on PP1. And as I talk with Murat, maybe this is one of the great showcase opportunities of all time heading into the trade deadline. We'll see what happens. Connor, of course, joined us from Vancouver off the top of the show. He'll join us tomorrow, I think, from the rink after the morning skate with the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. Remo will be back tomorrow, and we'll have much, much more for you as the season gets back to it. And we're back at it for whatever, another 24, 26 games before the end of the regular season, starting tomorrow against the last place Canucks. That is going to do it for us. Big thanks to Adam behind the scenes for making it all happen. One of the maestros from our friends and partners over at Assiniboia Downs. But Remo will be back tomorrow. We'll check in with Connor in Vancouver, and we'll have our first Jets game day show in about 3 weeks. Tomorrow as the NHL season resumes. That is going to do it for us today. Thanks to all of you that joined us live on YouTube. Shout out to everybody listening on the podcast. And a huge thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. You all have a great night. Stay warm. Not very nice outside. Getting warm in the next couple days. But make sure to join us back here as the Jets are back on the ice tomorrow. 1 o'clock. We're live Monday to Friday right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.